Oh, right. I know that I mostly got art up on my Facebook page and YouTube videos, along with my DistroKid account, which I'm rebuilding. But, sometimes I think it's like, especially making live videos, it's kind of like introduce yourself, like, hey, I'm Joseph Tozer. I'm the owner of Capital Peak Construction. I've built several companies, as well as manufactured tens of thousands of wooden swords for kids. I decided to pull off from manufacturing to work with AI about 2 years ago because the cost of distribution was just so high, right? So, I think a lot of my music, because most of the time people are asking, like, how do you make your music? And so eventually we'll have that conversation with, how AI works, and I'll try to have some of that even now. But realistically, I'm just chilling in the garage, and um, you make music from where you're at. You make it from the heart. And so right now I'm going to go through a lot of uploads. There's going to be quite a few hundred files that are going up from emotionally where I've been over the last 2 years. So I'm still trying to make some music, but it's hard when you're trying to like figure out like where were you, what are the keywords, what movie style or video is going to go well with this. How do I emotionally reconnect with my past, as I was working through, good content, bad content, you're going through, struggles and all sorts of things. But I guess, just staying live, staying current with where we're at with things. That's how you make things, is, you're really bringing the present to the table. You can reach back into the past, and a lot of that comes from it. Like, what are you feeling right now? And a lot of times that's trauma, hurt, grief, sorrow, joy. You have all sorts of different ones. So, it doesn't have to be about AI. Sometimes the best examples are just things that you're dealing with. So, like yesterday, we were told, our kids' homeschool program is canceled, in the state of Colorado. And it's like, okay, well, why can't my 4 kids go to this homeschool program? It's just a 1 day a week. And it's like, well, it's because it's at a church. And, in the state of Colorado, we don't want homeschoolers going to churches anymore. So what the state did is they said, if you're part of a curriculum, you're not allowed to participate in room studies, human interaction. We want to save as much money as possible for students that go to the public school. If your students want to take advantage of having funding, they need to go to a public setting. And, even though I pay taxes, it doesn't matter. I can only take advantage of what they're doing because they want the systems to work better. The schools are failing because their curriculum, honestly, is horrific. So it's like, well, what do you do? And it's like, okay, well, we have to buy good curriculum. We've got to invest into books. We got to get them into sports. We got to get them into interactions with other kids. We want them to be around other adults. We don't want to isolate them. So it's like, okay, well, now we're going to have to figure out a way to get like more sports or more something while not being able to take advantage of like the money that we're already paying. And so I'll give you a little backstory on some of that. We were using the MyTech High account. We were getting like 3,000 per child to go towards homeschooling supplies, which was great. We got a used laptop that was awesomely helpful. We got some used books. We got some curriculum. We got some art supplies. We got some basic things, right? Like nothing exotic. And it was still really helpful. 1 year we were hurting for money because we have 4 kids, and the state is trying to kill everyone. It's disgusting. So we're hurting for money because our mortgage is like $4,100 a month, and it's going up again because of the insurance rates, which I just put up a video complaining about that, so I don't need to cover that content. But basically 1 year for Christmas, we actually bought all the school supplies with the allowance we had through MyTech High and gave it to our kids as Christmas presents. And our kids were ecstatic. They got all this really cool curriculum and books and art supplies and stuff, and they were ecstatic. And it's like, yeah, we got through Christmas because we were able to use the money we paid to the state for school to be able to buy school supplies and give it to them as a gift. And we had other gifts too, but like money was tight that year. So it was a really creative way to actually feel like we were being good parents. So the state said no more of that. So they stripped My Tech High and they said, you can put your kids in a cottage program, like a 1-day-a-week program. So we're like, okay. And we're going to a church where at the time we had been there for a few years, and they started bringing in all these transgender teachers and homosexuals, which is, it's a lifestyle. It's fine. It's just in our personal space. We don't appreciate it. Like we go and we interact with you. We know you. We have friends that are in this type of lifestyle. But there's a difference between, having it in our personal space. Like this is where we go to church. This is where we go to be with other families that are like-minded, that are believing in God, that are trying to pursue righteousness, godliness, faithfulness. And, it just felt like the whole world's pushing, like, it's in the libraries, it's in the school, it's in the everywhere, it's in the bookstores, it's in your face, right? It's in every movie and content you can think of, all the new stuff coming out, they're just exposed to it everywhere. And it's like, pushing, and finally they just pushed right into our personal space. And we're like, look, I'm not comfortable with our kids going to a dance school. So we pulled our kids out of the dance school when we found out what was going on. And then, it was the pastor's daughter that was leading the whole thing. And she's like, children shouldn't be taught to dance before the Lord until they're old enough to make a decision for themselves. And it's like, hey, if that's your belief, that's fine. But, she's being, the other people are like, they're having huge orgy fests, they're having parties, they're getting super drunk. And it's like, okay, it's one thing to be into this stuff, but when you push, hey, Joash.
Hi.
Hey, can you give me a minute?
Yeah, just, do you have any of the, ears, plugs that we're going to put them here and here?
Yeah, can I bring those inside in just a minute? What do you need them for?
I need them because since they're watching the movie, we made a wall, so we can't see the movie.
Yeah, because he's gonna play a cool movie.
We need headphones, so we can't hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, give me like 5 more minutes, and I'll come in.
Are?
I might set up the laptop inside the bedroom so that, your bigger brother can watch a cool movie, but that, you guys will be able to still play something.
Dad, the laptop is broken.
It's broken? Oh.
We need a new screen.
What happened to it?
The screen is completely glitching.
Okay, well, I will figure it out, and I'll get us a new laptop. Give me like 10 minutes, buddy.
I was just wondering where it was. You don't have to bring them inside.
They're buried somewhere. I'm going to have to find them, okay?
I forgot.
Look inside that big black box over there.
This one?
Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome. You can add, we need a laptop to everything else. Okay. So, their older brother is like 13, and he's getting to watch finally a little bit of the Marvel movies, but our other kids aren't old enough for that yet. So, usually we'll send the little kids off to another room because it's a little bit older. They're not quite ready for it, but it sounds like they're going to put up a little barrier so that they can play the worm game, which is great. If you type in worm game, it's like you eat apples and oranges and stuff, and you just go around and get big and fat, and it's super fun to play. Little Big Worm, I think is what it's called. If you don't have it, you should try it. It's amazing. Our desktop is in the dining room so that everyone can see what's happening, so it's always being viewed. But anyways, so that aside, I need another laptop. What was I talking about? Oh, the homosexual thing. So many people argue and say, you're just being a jerk, you're being rude. And it's like, no, we love these people. I have them in my life. I serve them. I work for them. I have contracts with them. Some of our best clients have been homosexuals. Some of our absolutely worst clients of all freaking time have been Christian clients. Like, Christians are the number one client that will stiff you. You want to work for someone that's going to not pay their bill? Find a Christian builder. That's going to get you a big fat no payment right there. Just prepare to go to court. You can try to get them to sign documents. They won't sign them. I just need a basic contract saying that what we're doing and that we're buying these materials and that we're going to get refunded for them. Nope. Like a 99% loss. We had to cancel all of our builder relationships because the builders wouldn't sign documents and do down payments. So at some point we finally just said, hey, we're going to implement this. You have to have a signed contract. You have to do a down payment. You have to do these things. Homosexuals have no problem with that. They've got integrity. They've got integrity in droves compared to the Christian world. Christian world, they're supposed to be the ones that are like mercy, grace, restitution. No, they are cutthroat. You are a horrible person. So you're going to hear me talk about things and go back and forth. And it's the same thing with my music. So in my music, I'm making Christian content, but at the same time, like, my heart's conflicted and I'm making this other content. It's like, why am I so attracted to this? And it's like, well, it's because the same thing exists in everyone's heart. It's inside the homosexual community. It's inside my heart. It's inside the Christian community. It's inside everything, right? So it's super frustrating to have sin in your life. But, so basically with the church, we decided that, all this is going on. And some of the families came to me and they were like, hey, Joe, you're a long-haired hippie that wears flip-flops to church, and you can be you're very well articulate. You're very articulate with your words when you want to be, and you can be very aggressive when you want to be. So we want you to represent us and go have a conversation with the elders. So I go have a conversation with the elders, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's relative to what we're talking about. So, I go in, I'm going to just try to be super peaceful, and, they were like, well, you don't have any legal standing. And it was all about legalism, and I was like, whoa, right there, I just went full-blown good cop, bad cop. There was another family with me, and so I was like, I'm going to be the bad cop. So I just leaned into them. I'm like, you're disgusting. And I'm just meeting them with they're angry, right? So I just rise right to their level of anger and just spit it back in their face. And I just throw it out there for like 10 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I gotta leave. So I take off, and I'm bad cop, right? So then the good cop, the other family's there, and they're like, yeah, Joseph, he can be really, really emotional with his words, but, how did you feel about it? So eventually the elders, they call me up and they're like, well, if you have evidence, you can send us their Facebook page, because I'm friends with, apparently I was friends with a bunch of them on Facebook. And I was like, look, that's personal content. I'm not sending you personal content that they've trusted me with. Like, I don't care if they're guilty. I don't care if they're wrong. I'm not going to do that. I think it's a violation. I was like, I will give you a phone number to some other families that have testimonies. They'll share what their experience was. So the pastor has to basically reject his daughter from being able to rent space there. And then he's super upset with me. And it's really awkward. And at the same time, our kids started going to another school, a one-day-a-week program, because we were like, how do we use the state money in a healthy way for our children to be able to interact with adults, good environment, other children, positive environments. So we had found a small church that started a cottage program. So we put them in that so that they could draw a little bit. They couldn't draw the full $3,000 per child that the program was giving us, but they were able to draw a little bit. So, as this is all coming to a head, I was like, look, I don't need this in my life. You don't like my books. You don't like my music. You don't like my opinion. You want me to serve on staff and do stuff and just keep my mouth shut. And when there's a problem, you don't address it and face sin and celebrate trying to restore your daughter. Instead, you get angry at me, and I'm the bad guy. So you go on a sabbatical and come back like nothing's happened. No one ever talks about it. So I leave. And so we start going to this other small church, and we're trying to support them. They're super poor. They're covered in tattoos. They got bling. They wear gold necklaces around little chains, and they're just super charismatic. I love them to death. They're amazing. So, we're trying to root in with them, but they're very much like, this is what we're doing, but we don't go to people's houses, which is weird. So if they see this video, it's fine. You're doing an amazing job. But, we're trying to like encourage them to like have a little bit more fellowship that's not like structured. It's got to be more like breaking bread at people's homes. Because I'm like, this is really what life is about, is like finding people that you can break bread with. Like, it's the most important thing. Like, you need it in your life. And so, we've had a couple families come over, but it's a slow process. And, in the midst of all this, I'm going through all these different emotions. My music is all over the place. I'm making some really good music. I'm making some very bad music. I made some sailor music that I don't think I can even republish because it's so toxic. But, I was raised, I spent the last 30 years in construction, so I can have a sailor's mouth sometimes. And I made some really fantastic bard-style sailor music about a tavern prostitute. And it was like, okay, I was having a bad day. I was angry about a lot of things. And it came out with me trying to cope through humor. And the humor translated into something that was really fun to work on. And it was like dealing with like several birds with one stone. Anyways, so I've been going to a group at church to meet with them about a prophetic speaking class, and it's an opportunity for me to meet more people, more families, break bread with them, enjoy their company, learn and grow alongside them. And then the church decides, because the state says like, hey, you can't have the enrichment program and a one day of school. I think it's the enrichment program. I think I might be using the wrong term, but basically like 9/10 of all the families dropped out. And so the church is like, okay, well, we're closing the program. And so I call the pastor, or I texted him, and I'm just like, hey, be encouraged. It's going to be okay. It's fine. And at the same time, I'm like, at some point we really should get together. We both have problems. Maybe one will solve the other. And it's like, for me, I'm sitting here at like a $800,000-900,000 estate. If I sell it and we move and we reposition our family, uproot ourselves, and just take a financial loss and maybe sell it for like $750 and lose like $100,000 of our savings in the equity, we could move. But at the same time, like when I transition, I always give money away. So I'm like, okay, well, there's gonna be like $50,000 that we're gonna give to somebody. So Matt's family, they need $43,000 to pay off their property in another country. And I'm like, well, he was faithful. He worked for me for 7 years. He got married. He did what I told him to. He had children. He got married. He went on an adventure. He became a missionary. He's amazing. He's got some debt. He's thriving. They're on to their like 5th child. It's totally incredible. We've been supporting them financially this whole time for the last 8 years since he's been gone. And I'm sitting here going, I need to figure this out. I need to liquidate. And then, in my heart, I'm like, okay, well, I liquidate, and then I could just pay for the whole school's annual budget, which was like 35 grand or something. And it's like, hey, I'll give you the next year and a half's money. But then I'm thinking, why would I do that if they don't have a bread-breaking principle of mercy inside my home? And so, for me, the other family broke bread, worked alongside me. We even flipped a house together. So maybe I should make this a long recording. So talk about breaking bread. Like, the government kept saying that I couldn't buy a house for decades. And at some point, I'm a business owner. I've got like 50,000 in my account. And, this other family's like, hey, what should I do? I was like, well, you should buy a house. And they're like, well, you don't even have a house. I was like, well, I don't have a house because, I either don't have good enough credit, or I don't have enough money, or both, or I have good enough credit, but it's always this cycle of events, and it never works out for me. The builders stiff me, I lose $50,000, my credit goes down, but then I have money later, but then because it's a cycle that's just disgusting. So when my foreman was like, what do I do? I was like, well, we have money. I was like, I'll just give you the down payment for a house. So wrote him a check. Boom. I was like, but how are you going to get the house? And he's like, well, my dad will sign. I was like, see, right there. I was like, it's fellowship. You have somebody that'll connect with you. I don't have those things. You do. I was like, you should just be blessed. I was like, be blessed. Here's some money. He's like, well, what do we do when we sell? I was like, you do whatever the Lord tells you to do. And he's like, okay. So he buys this house, and, he's there until they decide to go on missions. And when he moves, he's like, oh, by the way, if you can just fix the last few things, and it was like $12,000 of construction, you can just have the house. And so we made like $40,000, and it helped me get out of debt. We were able to do all sorts of things with it. And it's like that breaking bread principle. And it's like, so with the church, so that's a huge example of how things work. So I'm like, if I sell the house and we lose money and we're going to give money away again, I should give it to that family, because that family's incredible. He understands me as a person. He understands me spiritually. He doesn't agree with a lot of the things I make, I'm sure, because I've just all sorts of traumatic, they have abandonment issues. I grew up fatherless, and that's why family is so important to me. But it also comes with a lot of hardship, and there's a lot of darkness for people that grow up without dads. So, it makes a lot of anger towards the churches and stuff, for example. But the church is people, and that's what this family was. So, I want to reach out to that church and say, hey, come alongside us, stabilize our family, help us get through the next few months of bills, help me throw a roof up. I even have the money to pay for the roof right now. I'll pay for the roof, but just come over and do some gardening. Let's do some trimming, maybe a little bit of paint touch-up, clean the garage. The garages are the worst. They're just a huge mess. So I haven't finished siding this portion over here. I got a lot of this white done. The roof has got a couple leaks, a couple little things, but the property itself is awesome. But just trying to keep up with it while being debt-free in the Dave Ramsey program, so I don't want to be a naysayer the whole time, but basically what I'm trying to say is that, what's on my heart currently as an artist. You create some really beautiful things through hardship. And so there's a lot of hard things happening. Our laptop just broke. Water under the bridge as far as the laptop goes. But, the underlining principle there is well, what about their art supplies? We need to buy a bunch of supplies really soon, and we don't have the money for it. So it's well, we'll figure it out. The Lord will provide. We pray about things. So, getting to know me as an artist or throwing up some YouTube videos to start with, it's I'm dealing with the banks and the insurance stuffs from, the other video. This video, I think, is just more about homeschooling, the state. They're throwing up flock cameras. They're coming after us, taking things. And it's at what point do they just, for us, it's well, at what point do they just take a picture and your kid took his seatbelt off and they show up to take your kids away because it turns out that, you're homeschooling and they don't like that. And now they have an excuse because you've endangered a child. And it was filmed 24/7 around town until they found some reason, and it's our kids wear their seatbelts, but it's a child. Sometimes they misbehave. So it's oh man. So I'm just waiting for all that to come out. So it's at what point do you just flee the state? So I don't believe in fleeing the state or your problems. I believe in conquering them. So as an artist, there's all these things going on. So when you see me make something that's dark, maybe I'm having a hard time with my marriage. Maybe I'm having a hard time financially, which is pretty much always. But, maybe we're having a hard time with sales, or there's a customer service issue going on, or, when you're struggling with a lot of things, it can really easily result in problems with pornography or other things, right? So I don't have a problem with alcohol or anything like that, but, as you're going through having other issues, the way you cope with things can be really damaging. And then what you're making is I've even made songs that are against certain things. And I'm hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm going to make a song about that. Or, this is how I feel. I'm super depressed. And so I make a depressing song. I even made a song that was really good. It was about celebrating the loss of everything. Like, we're going to lose everything, so let's lose it like rain. And it's just celebrate this concept of just finding joy in the midst of absolute loss. Because it's not like it's the first time we've lost everything. And even if you lose everything, it's fine. So, that's what the Bible's for. So I am a Christian artist, whether you like it or not. We can talk about problems and addictions and struggles and finances and broken laptops and whatever else. And you can get angry at me for some of the music I make, but I really don't care. I'm just going to be an artist. And as far as art goes, I made some dragon music, which is just super fun. I'm making some really haunting music that I'm not supposed to, because the AI program said I wasn't allowed to discuss certain topics, and I took that as a challenge. Like, hey, you're not allowed to do something? Like, oh, I'm not allowed to, okay, well, let's try. Which is so bad. Pushing the boundaries of technology. So you start becoming aware of just how AI works, and people are like, oh, it's going to take over the world. And it's like, it's so confined. You have no idea. It's confined with its parameters, and with, if you try to make a song about chain smoking cigarettes, you get blocked because it's harmful to yourself. And, if you try to make a song that's about all sorts of things, and it's like, okay, well, let's turn it into metaphor. And let's take that metaphor and put it into this beat or this rhythm or this genre. And, you start working on it and fine-tuning it, and all of a sudden your struggle becomes something that's absolutely beautiful. It might not be a good beautiful, but it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I guess that's kind of me as an artist right now, is just struggling through trying to figure things out. And I think that's part of it, is like getting to know people. You're getting such a tiny window into my life. It's like nothing. You just get a brief, tiny glimpse, and it's like, I don't know, just look at the music. If you don't like it, go to the next one. If you like one, great, share it. But I don't know. I'm not going to be the kind of person that just makes the same genre music over and over and over. I'm just going to be an artist that's sharing where I'm at, how I'm feeling. And some of it's just absolutely horrible and disgusting, and that's fine. It's a part of life. But really great artists put their emotions into things. And I know I'm a great artist. I've sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of art. So that makes me a pretty good artist. Probably millions. I mean, if you think of my job as construction, where I basically provide super high-end quality tile installs, I mean, that's art too. So, or kitchen remodels, or bathroom remodels, or flooring, or hardwood, sanding and finishing. Painting is an art form. Like, whatever you do is art. So, I don't know. It's really frustrating right now with the way the state is going. It's really frustrating what's happened to the American churches. I wrote a book about that. The Book of the Left Hand, I think is what it's called, or Paradise Sacerdotum or something. I can't even remember. But the book was about the bride of Christ is not a building, it's the bride. And the church teaches that all the time. So where I want to end this 30-minute video is, we're built to be mortared together in mercy, hand in hand, breath to breath, life with life, right? And that's something the church talks about, but they don't do. So the American church is structure building Babylon. So the church is building its own Babylon. What is not Babylon? What is not Babylon is division away from those things into the kingdom of God, mortared together with his bride, and he raises us up to be his body. So we are the body of God, and we're called to go and break bread with each other and celebrate, and not just each other, but also the world. So like when we're talking about homosexuality and we're talking about these other problems that are in the world, like we're called to go into those environments. It's just, I got really angry when they came into my environment, not in oh, I'm here to talk about it, but it just let's expose everyone to everything in kind of a way. So anyways, my name is Joseph Tozer. You can reach me at joe.tozer@gmail.com. If the Lord moves on your heart to try to support us, joe.tozer@gmail.com for PayPal as well. Be blessed. May the Lord's favor shine upon you.